Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to WOR and welcome to a very exciting title finale. I am extremely excited to talk about what we have in store for you all today. It's going to be an absolutely amazing run and an absolutely amazing fight to the bitter end for the title. Joining the commentary box is Corey once again. He's got the final round in the box. Welcome, mate. It's good to have you back. How you been?
Good, mate. I've been very, very good over the last couple of days while I've been building myself up for what is this final title fight and the season finale of season 18. And it has been probably one of the most interesting seasons I've seen in WOR, keeping my eye on the board at the two that have been running battle against battle throughout the entire season to try and take the champion top spot for season 18. But other than that, it's looking very, very tight, I've got to say.
Yeah, and what a season we have had. 11 rounds, 11 electrifying races, starting all the way in Australia and ending here tonight in Japan. In Suzuka, we're about to get underway with qualifying, but there is one key linchpin tonight. That is the standings, and particularly P1 and P2. After the performance last time out in Saudi Arabia, Crozen is 8 points adrift of Klaffenbach. So thanks to Corey's excellent commentator napkin math, which is a technical term, we have a situation where if Crozen can get ahead of Klaffenbach, the championship's done. If Klaffenbach can get third or get the win with fastest lap or just the win, and then Crozen will get third, then Klaffenbach has it. Because if Crozen gets second, and then Klaffenbach and Crozen get to equal points as a result of that being second place, then we will have a situation where we have drivers not only on equal points, but equal amounts of wins and equal amounts of second places. Isn't that right, Corey?
It is indeed. I think it will come down to the final decision on the fact that it will be Crozen who will pick up a second P2 victory there. If he gets P2 in this race, got to put that into perspective. He has to be P3 or lower for Klaffenbach to get the championship done and dusted. Other than that, it's all down for Crozen.
Yeah, so Crozen has got the pressure on his shoulders, and Klaffenbach, for him tonight, it's all to play for. This is going to be, without a doubt, one of the most tense and one of the sort of most challenging races that these drivers will face this season, because a lot rides on it. A lot rides on tonight, and we are about to go trackside with none other than Joris Crozen. So keep in mind, folks, Crozen needs to be ahead, and then Klaffenbach needs Crozen to be third or lower if he wins in order to take this one.
Yeah, currently looking on board at Crozen, driving his Alpine as he's coming into a spoon corner now. This banker is going to be absolutely crucial for him. But don't forget that Klaffenbach is lurking right behind. He needs to take the victory here today, and getting yourself on pole will certainly be the best way to set yourself up for it. Well, let's see what Crozen has to offer on the first banker lap that he can set. One of the first drivers to come towards the line, so it will be the fastest time you'll see. But is it enough to put that pressure on your rival behind you as he comes around the final turn now to start the first time lap of this finale?
Yeah, of course, first run of qualifying here. Crozen wanting to get out nice and early to get themselves ahead of the competition, get that early banker in, maybe play a little bit of the mind game and set off their opponents. Just trying to get as much under Klaffenbach's skin as possible in order to put themselves in the best stead when it comes into the championship. Through the S-curves very nicely there with the Alpine into the Dunlop and then the Degners. I'm going to see the kind of line that they take through, keeping it very narrow to the inside. End of sector 1, 31.4, looking nice and clean. Then, under the bridge here, say only F1 track with a crossover of its kind. Then up into the hairpin, a little bit of inside lock, a little bit of smoke kicking up from that left side. But otherwise, a very clean run through 200R now. Again, keeping the line nice and narrow. The car has that much downforce. You're much better off minimizing the distance traveled. So here we go through the spoon curve. Very nicely done with the double apex, peeling out as wide as they can, maximize the speed, heading down now, coming up towards 130R, of course, iconic corner of this circuit. It's going to be absolutely foot to the floor. It's going to be pinned, battery fully expended as we head into the final chicane now, clipping as much as they can. Keep as much speed, a little bit of a snap of the rear, but it's not going to be enough to shake them, as it's going to be a 26.4 initial run. More times now coming through the board. Caden Lute, 26.796, 27.1 from Gottschalk, third fastest. Ryan Grove going to be the next 26, with Ben Marples coming in at the last second for McLaren, but barely making it outside of the 26s with the .057.
Oh, I was just on board with his rival Klaffenbach, who could have been challenging to take that pole position away, but had a really unfortunate lap and boxed straight. Didn't put that time in, not happy with it. It was a bit all over the limits, so just a little bit too much for Klaffenbach in that first run. But the track evolution is yet to come out. The grip will get better and the lap times will get a lot faster. However, Andre Mona up into P2 with that lap. Who else is to cross the board? Nobody else apart from Gabriel Quintino, who could be the one coming towards the line now as it is. Crossing the line up into P3, 26.7. So that's a decent lap there from Gabriel Quintino.
Well, we know Quintino to be quite the rapid driver and someone who knows how to put the pace on their day. Looks like today is going to be one of them. We have Tom97, another driver who's going to be out breaking the cycle of so many other cars. Of course, everyone else either now heading into the pits or on their cooldowns. And it looks like we are going to see a full push from Tom97. So let's see what he can do here in the Mercedes outfit. Of course, giving it the best that he can do. 32.0, so about half a second down on Crozen's time. Their best they could realistically get is a 27 if this pace is to be kept up with. But let's stick with them. Let's see what they can do.
So he is coming round turn number 12 now to come into Spoon Corner. The double left-hander, if you run it just a little bit too quick and run in there a little bit too hot, you can just collect yourself a bit too wide and invalidate the lap when you may need it most. But now comes down the back stretch. No DRS along this straight. It's all about your battery deployment, making sure you get it right and you've saved enough to get you through 130R and to set yourself up into the Casio Triangle, the final chicane before you come powering down towards the line. And then the DRS shall be available to you. But out of the last turn we go, coming around, it's looking to be that 27 that you talked about, 27.4 into P16 as it stands.
Yeah, and then with that as well, you've got a couple of cars who didn't get that initial run under the books. And with four drivers, Marquardt, Schluter, JST, and Klaffenbach all needing that second go, all eyes are going to be on that final four. But Klaffenbach coming up to the line now. Let's see what they can do. 12 minutes on the clock and plenty of pressure riding on as the Kick Sauber crosses the line for attempt number 2. Interesting that they went for that early abandon and now are looking to break the cycle when they don't have that much on-track traffic. What do you think is the reason behind that? Because they could have got, knowing Klaffenbach's pace here, they could have at least got an okay 27 or even a high 26 if they remained committed.
Absolutely, but he is out on the track now, coming into Sector 1. Is he going to improve on this time? It's very much needed from the Kick Sauber. He's come out in cleaner, but does have plenty of time to go again if there is the unfortunate problem in his lap. Came in a little bit hot there. You saw him bouncing all over the curbs and snaps himself again, but does set a personal best into the first sector. Now as we get through the hairpin in Sector 2, is it going to be much of an improvement that's needed?
This is Klaffenbach pushing at the limit. He knows what rides on this race, and he knows what rides on this qualifying here. So 31.6 first sector. That's his time to beat. Still 10th and a half down from Crozen if our initial metrics are anything to go by. Sector 2 looking a little bit skittish as well. We saw him slide over the curbs just that little bit through Degner 2 and under the crossover there. So 1 minute 10 timestamp as we come through. 38.9, again a couple of tenths adrift of Crozen's pole sitting time. 38.6 was the Sector 2 time to beat. And it looks like he's got an invalidation anyway in that final chicane. So it would have been a 26.7 on the books, but a little bit too much chicane. Likely a 26.9. And it's going to be another falter here from Klaffenbach, as a couple of other cars are now making their way through. Mark Schluter, Marquardt, JST has already come through in P10. Aston Martin is going to be making his way through to a comfortable P5. Very impressive run there. And Marquardt once again going into the pit. Some of these drivers really refuse to accept anything less than perfection here in Suzuka.
Certainly does. They don't want to get that time on the board. They need to get it right. They're all relying on that one crucial, important lap that could get them into the top 10, if not up to that pole position. But with the gap from Joris Krozen and Andre Molnar, there's still 3/10 to gain from even some of the quicker drivers earlier out. But Andre Molnar is on a lap as he's coming into Sector 1 and getting himself through the S's now, coming through Dunlop Curve. He's coming down into Degner. He's up on his time currently by just under 2/10 out of Sector 1. Getting the press on now up into the hairpin.
That's the fastest Sector 1 I think we've seen thus far. 31.433. That is faster than Krozen's time. So there is potential here on Molnar's lap. We have a couple of other cars. We were on board with Latour just a moment ago, and they were also putting down some solid pace. So let's watch this next wave of cars, because I have a feeling we are going to see a few cars. Oh, invalidation though for Molnar. Unfortunate through Spoon, but that is going to be their run as good as done. Many other cars also following the same fate. Latour. Sprogis, though, actually, is going to be on one in the Red Bull through 130R now. Let's see what they can muster. Remember, they're currently P6. Just 2 milliseconds improvement will put them ahead of Schluter and into the top 5. They haven't invalidated through the final chicane, but they head into the pits as well.
Joris Krozen also following suit, goes into the pits. So just on board with the Alpine there. Joris Krozen feeling very comfortable in his time that he's set so far. Leroy Brown jumps up into P5 though. That's a good lap there, 26.8. So within a striking distance of potentially getting onto that front row with Joris Krozen. But Andre Molnar did have an invalidation earlier on, as we called it out.
Yeah, they're all bearing the teeth here. I mean, look at the gap between P6 and P8. That is 3 milliseconds and a big slide from Gottschalk. We're on board with the P16 currently. They were looking to get some major improvements, get themselves into the 26s. But that slide could cost them dearly, as they are going to be lagging a little bit in terms of that rear grip now. That scrubbing of the tyres is not going to be doing them any favours. And at least the temperatures are going to be something of concern now. Coming to the end of Sector 2 for Gottschalk now, as they are going to be making their way through. Still 10... and it's a 11.1, half a second down. So I highly doubt that they are going to remain fully committed to this run.
Larry Tulke coming through the hairpin, another driver out on a lap. But earlier on, I saw Alessandro Finn improve on his time, just get level around about half a second away from taking Joris out. Who's that? Who's the Aston Martin in P14?
That is... I mean, I hope that doesn't come to pass, of course. Oh, Marquardt giving us a bit of star points there as they come through under the bridge, through the second Degner. Big slides coming out from both the Williams cars, in fact, as they have seemingly had a little bit of a trigger-happy tail end, we will say. Marquardt, though, was remaining committed. Tulke is, I believe, on a cooldown, and that leaves the majority of the field now on outlaps. We'll have to keep an eye, as many drivers are now in that crucial transition period. We have just a few minutes left to go, and there is going to be everyone dashing to make the most out of that track evo, particularly Krozen. He's on a 0.473, but he knows that that gap is going to shrink significantly.
It certainly is. The gap is going to close very, very quickly. A lot of drivers are coming out to now start what could be the final runs, depending on how it goes for them. Just under 6 minutes to go now. Joel Marquardt gets the time on the board, but it's just not fast enough.
0.344, but they did have that big slide. And at the end of the day, it's sometimes just about getting the time on the board, because that at least gives you a mental safety net.
Does indeed. You've got the time on the board. You don't really need to think too much. You've got your banker, you know where you need to improve, but as you come back round and get into the pits for that final run, because you will have the time now, you've done your banker time, you're now heading back to the box as we all suspect. The final run, you can see where you lose out and see how much you're going to improve by when that lap is done to perfection. So it does help in that mental game. You can see you're going quicker and can boost your confidence a little bit more.
Here we go, on board with Crozen now, current pole sitter, and looking to push that even further beyond. 31.437, that's the best Sector 1 time that we've seen thus far in terms of valid laps. We did have a .433, but that was invalidated, unfortunately. I believe that was from Mona. But on board with Crozen, remaining still as we head through into the second sector and deep into Spoon. Let's see the kind of line they can take. They didn't overextend on the outside, a little bit of drift to the apex. Struggling to keep it within those lines. It's going to keep pushing though. Ryan Grob, 0.614. JST, 0.627. That next set of times is now coming through. That benchmark is dropping fast. Crozen dropping a little bit of time in Sector 2, but they could make this work. A good chicane here is going to put them in very good position, and it looks like a very good chicane indeed, though they do not fully commit. They know the caliber that is expected of them, and that is going to be a not invalidation, that's the wrong word, but a abandon, as we have Linus Donovan, aka taking yours out, who has got themselves into P4. Molnar is going to improve further, 0.514 in the kick Sauber. So all eyes on Klaffenbach. Can they confirm a solid lap here? They know what's at stake, and coming up to the line, is it going to be enough? It's only P3, 0.578. That's half a tenth to drift to their teammate.
Oh, you can see they're just maybe struggling earlier on with the laps. Just can't seem to get the lap that's needed. That all vital, important lap to take pole position, especially with a championship at your fingertips. The pressure could be building up a little bit too much for Klaffenbach, but we cannot count him out yet. The race is still yet to come, and we've seen him do some dramatic drives, to say the least. But for now, Joris Crozen is still on that top spot with still the fastest time on the board. Was that his banker? I think he's still up there with his banker time.
Yeah, I think that was still his initial, which goes to show the kind of pace that these top-level drivers have on tap. Now, I'm looking at some of the times, and particularly the sector breakdowns. The thing that stands out to me, Klaffenbach consistently drops time in that second sector. I think he just gets a little bit too aggressive on the throttle. Particularly, we saw it, I think first time out, we saw it in turn 9, second Degner. They did drop the rear a little bit, and they are prone to pushing it on those curbs, as befitting of a championship tier driver, but sometimes that can come back to bite. So it is something to be definitely wary of, as we now have the next wave of cars making their way through. I'm curious to see what De Capua does, because De Capua has been a very strong qualifier in the past, and I wonder how they are doing down in P14, whether we'll see them nearer to the top 10 or even top 5.
Well, certainly it had a couple of little struggles earlier on, not getting the lap time properly. You say he's a very strong qualifier. We've seen it before. Normally gets up into that top 5 area, or at least a little bit just outside of the top 5.
Klaffenbach retired.
Oh, Klaffenbach's out. He's done. Maybe that was his last set of tyres. Doesn't have them anymore to his disposal. He's invalidated the earlier laps. So it could make sense that he's used all the tyres and just no longer has that advantage anymore. Nose cannot improve. Andre Molnar retires also. Both Kick Salbers happy with their times. Not going to do anything about it.
This could be the seal for Crozen.
Well, Keaton, let's see. First to come around and start that lap. Coming around to get himself through the first corner and get into the snake corners. So left, right, and then another left around Dunlop. But in the first opening couple corners, as he comes around turn 6 and fires back around turn 7, it's looking clean, it's looking collected. But will it be an improvement on the first sector time? Comes across over. It is a 10th up, a 31.5. So still very quick in the first sector, just not as quick as we've seen from the front few drivers. But now gets into the hairpin, trying to get that rotation into third gear. Very gentle on the throttle on exit. You've got to be. You don't want to line up those rear tyres and slide yourself out. But now as we come down through turn 12 and get ourselves set up for a spoon, the double left-hander, we need to be very careful. We've seen drivers invalidate there, running too wide on the apex just as they come around on the exit of 13, but it's dealt with very, very nicely as we power down the back stretch. Again, I said it earlier, there's no DRS on this, although it's being a straight, so it's all relying on the battery deployment and getting the exit down out of spoon corner. But as we come around 130R, absolutely flat to the floor, slamming on the brakes into the final chicane, the Casio triangle, dispatched with and done. Is there going to be improvement needed to jump potentially higher across this line? It's only good enough for P7. It's unfortunate there for Keaton Law, and that will be his qualifying done.
Second flag has fallen. Final times now making their way through. A few more cars, of course, to keep an eye out for and watch. We got Marquardt looking to make some big gains after an initial rough banker. They could see themselves easily in the .8s with this one. Is it going to be a strong one? Yes, it is. They're up into P8 with a .691. Solid, respectable time as more cars now come through. Schluter into 11th. We've got JST, who is going to be abandoning their lap. We have Ryan Grob, who is going to be pushing hard, but then you have Crozen. Can they improve any further? They don't have their main title rival of Klaffenbach on track. They've beaten them by at least a 10th. Are they going to see about pressing that advantage even harder as even more cars make their way through? Grob retires. That is JST, of course, abandoned down in 7th. Is there an improvement? Yes, there is. Crozen making a message out of this qualifying. .386, start with a .473. Easily a few tenths clearer from the rest of the field. This is Crozen at his peak.
Something out. Jean Halliday just came flying through in his Ferrari and set an identical time to Andre Molnar.
Yeah, and Halliday being another driver, of course, we want to watch him. Proven racer here, but Crozen with a spectacular final lap is going to make it to the top. And with Molnar, Halliday, Klaffenbach, Grob, Donovan, JST, Brown, Lute, and Marquardt making the top 10, it's going to be an absolutely stacked race start. We have then, of course, Sprogis, Marples, Quintino, Schluter, Tilke, Latour, Gottschalk, De Capworth, Finn, and then Tom 97, 3/4 of a second adrift down at the bottom. But we have got, of course, a lot to look forward to with this race. I am super excited for it. It is going to be an immense event to watch in real time, and I am super excited. Who are you keeping your eye out for? I'm very surprised, in particular, of both the Kick Saubers quitting out so early.
It is surprising considering how close that qualifying was there. It got very, very spicy towards the end. It was just 1/1000th away from Andre Molnar being knocked down off that front row by Jean Halliday. Klaffenbach as well didn't have the qualifying that was needed, that was most vital in this championship fight. So now only qualifies in P4 after the Ferrari slots himself in between those Kick Sauber drivers. So it's looking very, very spicy as we get into the race. But like I say, you cannot count out Klaffenbach yet. He's a very fast driver with some very good racecraft and patience as a must. We've seen him sit behind drivers in the past, wait for that open door and pounce like a lion, take that position away and take a victory. So what could it be here in Suzuka? It's anybody's game now, but it's all looking good for Joris Crozen to further extend the points gap and take the championship here on the final round.
Yep, and of course the championship is the main talking point here. So Klaffenbach, we know him to be a decisive fighter. He picks his timings, he makes his moves, and when he makes those moves, you know well he commits to them. But looking at the points, 8 splits Crozen and Klaffenbach. So all Klaffenbach needs is to win tonight, and then for Crozen to get 3rd or lower. But saying that, Crozen's very strong qualifying could put a dent in those efforts. We'll have to wait and see when the race starts in full. Keep in mind as well, as we look to the last race in terms of those results, Klaffenbach was the one to come out on top, and that is how the points got into the position they are. So Crozen in 3rd, Szymon Lakomski being the one to split the 2. All it really needs is to do the same again. And we saw with Saudi Arabia that anything can happen. Sometimes corner to corner, the situation can wildly change.
It certainly can, and especially with a lot of corners here that can really catch you out, especially if you go onto any of the curbs coming into sector one through the snake section. You can certainly unsettle the car in a very, very bad way through. You're trying to maintain all your momentum and your speed coming through sector one. It's corner to corner for these drivers here, but with only one DRS zone available, it's going to make it very difficult to overtake until you get down that pit straight. But over the last results, as you can see there, it was Klaffenbach who did benefit in Saudi Arabia and come out on top.
Yep. So we look to the rest of the field as well, who did make some gains of their own. Was De Capua getting 10th, Tom Martinez taking 9th position in a solid result from him. And then Halliday, of course, the last minute surge in the qualifying here tonight, getting 3rd place and identical times to Molnar, who got 8th last time out and were poised to take quite a result by the end of it. But we will, of course, see how the race shapes up. And this is where we point to you in the chat. Of course, let us know who you are keeping your eye on in terms of tonight's race. We've had a brilliant qualifying. We're looking forward to seeing how the drivers put it all down on track. And while we're here as well, support the people who support us. Gridfinder, Next Level Racing. Proud to have them work with us here at WOR, and be sure to go and check them out. So I'm going to throw a curveball to you, Corey. Who is your one driver that you are keeping an eye on in tonight's race?
Klaffenbach, knowing how close the pressure is, knowing how close the championship is coming down to, he's going to be pushing to his maximum potential, giving it everything to come back after this qualifying that didn't end too well for him. He's down in P4, but it's still a good position to be in and could potentially capitalise from the front runners who battle it out through these corners in Japan. It's all about waiting for that patient move, that time to strike, and then eventually, potentially, force your rival down into P3 or lower, and the title is yours for the taking. So I'm definitely going to keep my eye on Klaffenbach. So maybe the driver I'm rooting for, want him to do it. Can he do it with the odds stacked against him? That's all I can say. It's all I'm rooting for.
I'm going to go for something left field. I'm actually going to keep my eye on Jan Halliday for the sole reason that they are going to be the wild card in this equation. You got Molnar up in 2nd, and maybe there is a little bit of Kick Sauber team play that can come into effect there, but I think the extent of that will be just making sure that they don't double stack. Now, Halliday, however, they are not only a proven driver, but they're a driver who knows how to fight and takes, I'd argue, the same decisive attitude that Klaffenbach does with their moves. So I think he's going to be quite the headache for our championship contender to get around when it comes to race time. And that's why they are going to be one of my drivers that I'm looking out for the most in all of this. Of course, Croson having that great early start can get a bit of headway, can get a bit of a getaway out in the early stages of the session. But Klaffenbach's got to make that time up, and they've got to make those positions up as well. We could see a bit of early lap pandemonium, but at the same time, once things are settled, if he's not in that 3rd spot, it's going to be maybe facing a little bit of trouble.
Absolutely. It's all about, can the drivers that have qualified just behind, like Andrea Molnar, for example, or like you say, it's Jan Halliday, can they do anything to potentially help what could be the title going to their rival, or potentially take a victory here for themselves in the season finale? You got to know the drivers are all running their own game, running their own strategy. A win is a win to them, and that's all they think about. If you're not first, you are last. That is the mentality some of these drivers have, and they will push all the way for that victory. So again, Jan Halliday could be thinking, I could win here. That's not my true pace. I'm going to press on for it, which could potentially force Croson down, and then Klaffenbach, like I say, waiting to strike, could potentially jump higher up. So there's a lot of fighting going to happen here, especially as we get into this final round. We've got 27 laps of Suzuka circuit, so it's a lot of laps to do around this circuit. The grip limits can really test you, especially the apexes. They are dangerous to touch, dangerous to be on. So you just need to make sure that you're not getting too much side-by-side action, and you can get yourself pressing on.
Yeah, those curbs in particular, I remember you mentioning to me just before the broadcast. Those curbs are a little bit dangerous. Now, usually you want to sort of avoid putting any major pressure on the curbs in particular, but especially around Suzuka, it seems to be like they are something you have to be wary of, or maybe suddenly no sudden movements on those curbs if you want to stay the right way around.
Yeah, absolutely. You can just catch yourself clipping it ever so slightly, and that's all enough. That is all it takes to just unsettle the car, and then you're losing tenths, if not getting yourself spun round. And on lap one, maybe lap two, that's going to be treacherous and potentially impact your race in a devastating way. With everybody barrel charging up behind you, everybody gunning down into those corners to try and get the best start they can. It's all down for lap one. Which driver can get the best getaway and get themselves away from what could potentially be a race-ending event.
Yeah, and nobody wants their race ended, especially on the final round. And hopefully that doesn't come to pass for any of our drivers out there tonight. Now, we are just waiting on one more join. We are waiting on, I believe it is Decapua. But once they are in, we're going to be getting trackside good and proper. In terms of strategy, of course, it's 27 laps. We'll take a proper look at the track now. Of course, you've seen it in qualifying action, but it's a 5.8 kilometer romp through the heart of Japan. 18 corners, only one DRS zone, which sets it apart alongside the iconic crossover. The only drive on the F1 calendar to have a track cross over itself, but also one of the, I'd say, one of the most unique tracks on this calendar, besides, of course, the established favourites.
Absolutely. 10 turns to the right and 8 turns to the left. So certainly it's rather balanced with its turn and numbers. But you've got to remember that some of these corners are faster than others and will degrade the tyres a lot harder and be a lot harsher on the car in terms of aerodynamic load and potentially unsettle it in a way that can cost you a lot of time out of your race. But especially coming through at 130i, you don't want to put too much load on that. You want to try and maintain your speed all the way through, flat to the floor, coming into the final sector before you slow it right back down again into the final chicane, which again, a slow speed corner coming out of a high speed corner. The tyres are going to be cooling down as you are keeping you're driving at high speed, so the wind's cooling the cars down and the tyres down a little bit, but then you're harsh on the brakes and you boom, roar up the temperatures once again. It's all about making sure you manage your tyres effectively, especially going around these turns.
Well, you come out of the hairpin at turn 11, and then it is basically non-stop tyre load. You've got a slow right-hander, then the double apex, the spoon, a little bit of respite, then you've got 130R, and then the Casio triangle. So key points to look out for in terms of overtakes, of course, are the heading into the first corner. You've got the single DRS zone of the track. You've also got turns 10 and 11, coming on the hairpin, and then you have the Casio triangle, the final corners ahead of the start finish straight. Once again, we have got the confirmation that we are now heading into the session in full, and we'll be with you in there in just a moment. But I have to say, before we get into the race, this has been one of the best WR seasons I've been a part of, and it has been an absolute privilege. Of course, we'll gush a bit more after the race, but I did want to say that before it all else, that it's been a great season, and I'm looking forward to seeing how these drivers cap it off here in Suzuka.
Absolutely. It's been season 18, my first season here in WOR in the commentators booth, and it has been absolutely roaring. Every race has been one to watch. Every race has been interesting with its own fights in the field and mixing drivers coming out on top. It wasn't all just domination, although it was for quite a few rounds early on. But we've seen a mighty fight for two drivers, potentially taking what could be the season 18 Tier 2 Championship. We're now into the final round. We wait for the drivers to get themselves ready for the last time this season, and what a season it has been. And it's been a pleasure to be a part of, to say the least.
It's been a pleasure to have you, but we're coming up to the end of our 18th lap around the calendar, and it's going to be in just a moment. You see all the drivers get themselves prepped, and here we go for the final time this season. It is 5 red lights. The track is hot here in Japan for season 18. It's the finale, and immediately it's going to be a quick getaway for the likes of the top field. There's going to be immediate shuffling. JST, brilliant start. Crozen is going to try and get that early jump. Klappenbach is going to be remaining in fourth as Halliday is now into second. Both kick Saubers behind him. JST is not giving an inch. He's going to try and go side by side, and Klappenbach through the S-curves. Not having any of it, though, in the black and green, as you see more shuffling down that field.
There's a lot of shuffling going down in that rear pack. You see Daniel Gottschalk moving up, Max Schluter keeping it on with the Williams driver. Both of them have just gone wheel to wheel, but it now looks like Daniel Gottschalk's dropped out a little bit. Keanu Leotard also staying very, very close to the drivers in front of this huge DRS train. You see that there's a bit of a battle once again. Ryan Grob side by side on the exit out of the hairpin. It's the Williams and the Red Bull trying to get past him. Riyad Sprogis though looking to attack and get past. There's a V-carb off in the background going through the hairpin. Things are going all over the show, but Daniel Gottschalk has dropped all the way back down to the rear. I was just talking about him having a good start, and there he goes down the field.
You see a couple of cars jumping up and down. Gottschalk having a drop in the hairpin, having to take to the infield. Klappenbach is going to be peeking to the side of his teammate in the kick Sauber, though. He's going to be going for it through the chicane. Casio triangle now. Big jump on the exit, and going to get themselves up into P3. JST is going to capitalize on the slow exit of the second Sauber, and is going to be making himself into fourth place, immediately making himself at home, and is going to be pushing even harder to try and get a podium. Takes inside line, looking for a chance, not quite being afforded it, and immediately the pressure is on everyone at the top. But look at the gap to the front. Through all of this chaos, through all of this pandemonium, Crozen on the mediums, gone for that early push strategy, and it's worked out immensely in his favor because Halliday, 2.3 seconds adrift, and Crozen is clear.
Oh, it's been an absolute masterclass start for Joris Crozen. Being on pole, though, straight away, it benefits you getting that run down into turn one, providing you're not under attack. Oh, no, it was the Ferrari driving Jean Halliday who brought the attack onto Andre Molnar, took P2 away, and then Klappenbach attacks his teammate. JST gets through, then Linus Donovan gets through. But through all that battling in that first lap, it's just let Joris pull away. They've been slowing each other down and giving the clean air. Being on the medium compound tyre, it's been easy. Just get them fired up and away you go. Now 2.6 seconds adrift from Jean Halliday. It's certainly looking to be Joris's championship to win, but this also puts the pressure on because it's also his to lose.
This gives some bit of flexibility to Crozen's strategy, though. With that time gap, he can go for an undercut onto the hards and take himself through to the end of the race early and potentially dodge a lot of on-course traffic. And we'll have to see how he leverages this kind of strategy. But immediately, a bit of DRS chicanery is happening in that fight for P2. Klappenbach is going to push himself up. JST is going to follow through and do the same, as Jan Halliday is now being displaced into fourth. JST, though, trying to do a bit of a similar magic trick to what Crozen did. He's got himself up into third and done decently well, but now he's going to be in the throes of that DRS rotation.
Absolutely is. I'm just looking at the tyres though. The medium tyre suffering with a bit of thermal degradations, but the hards are also suffering on Julian Klappenbach's car. Those rear tyres are lighting up, to say the least. So the temperature on lap 3 certainly getting hot here in Suzuka.
Well, you're going to have to keep an eye in particular on your rear tyres. On the back left seems to be the hot spot for a lot of these cars. They're going to be pushing as hard as they can, keeping some of the lateral grip, and there will also be a lot of lateral load just on the rear tires in general. Left or right side doesn't really matter, because they're going to be putting a lot of trust in that back end to stay gripped, especially through some of the double apexes like we see with Spoon. 130R, a lot of high speed, and we're seeing a bit of lift and coast for some as well. Maybe a couple of drivers are trying to go a little bit more lean on fuel load and gain some time that way.
Potentially, with the underfueling strategy certainly going ahead, but I've got a feeling it could be a burner here in Japan, so maybe they're trying to save that fuel. They know the fuel's burning quicker than they expected, so now they are just watching that fuel management, but it is looking like the front few drivers, I don't know, they could potentially be looking for it. Maybe fuel strategy is something to worry about here.
Yeah, that could, of course, be something on the driver's mind. We're seeing a bit of ghosting happen. That's Ryan Grov. He's dropped down now to P13. It looks like he has not had the best of times, to say the least. We have seen, of course, a big drop from the Haas and a couple of other cars as well. Gottschalk has recovered to 18th as Tom Martinez and Alessandro Finn make the bottom two. Run on the inside for Keanu. And after a strong qualifying, you know, I will admit, it is a little bit interesting to see them down there.
It is indeed to see him so far down the order, but there's been a couple of issues earlier on the start. Ryan Grove could have been higher there also, but you see him down in P13. You saw a lot of moves going out in the opening laps, and with the DRS now down the pit straight, if you lose it, although everybody is within that train, it could be difficult for you. One bad corner could turn into multiple bad corners as every driver pushes for perfection on their line. You could drop positions left, right and centre. The DRS will not help you until you come down that pit straight.
I think in particular, if there's going to be one place where that mantra is true, it's this first sector here. It's the S-curves. It's heading up into Dunlop and the Degners. You have to get your line pretty much perfect, because even a slight misposition with the fact you're going constantly in one direction or another, you need to nail it. You need to get that good flow. That flow state needs to kick in for these racers in order to get those solid times down. We're on board with Klaffenbach with a very strong sector one, and now he's going to be working to try and close that gap. JST half a second behind him and looking to try and peel that gap out further. They are really going for that push, that resource dump, to see how far they can get away and see about making JST no longer a threat. If they can get them just fighting with Halliday, that leaves them on their own terms, on the hards, to close that time up and potentially diminish some of that medium early advantage.
It certainly does. The medium tyres could be suffering with the degradation here as the thermal management becomes an issue. We see the rear left is getting mighty hot as you've got all that lateral load on the tyres coming through the third sector. But now, as we come into the final corners, he's almost reached a gap, but it wasn't enough for Klaffenbach trying to break the DRS away from JST. I mean, you can push for it. He does take the fastest lap of the race, but he's still within DRS. But here comes Jan Halliday looking to get past JST and does so with ease, using a bit of that battery. With the DRS, the combo is unstoppable, especially with the run that Halliday got out of the final turn though. It was beautifully set up and executed. Now on the podium position, can they press on and put a kink in the works for Klaffenbach?
Well, Klaffenbach has managed to rein Krozen into within 2 seconds, so it's not like their strategy was for naught, even if they couldn't break DRS. Now, Klaffenbach does have a unique challenge on his hands where now he's going to be on a bit of recovery and has to balance that with keeping the likes of Jan Halliday at bay. But if he could keep up this sort of almost pump and dump style strategy where they spend a couple of laps recharging and then dump it over the course of a lap to gradually reel Krozen in, I could see that working, especially when we get to the pit window for the medium.
Certainly cool, but Joris certainly can fire back. He can deploy his battery, also trying to retaliate from that. Dump a little bit, recharge a little bit, dump a little bit, but the time is dropping now. Klaffenbach almost got dropped out of 2 seconds again, but has closed it right back up to within 2 seconds. It's certainly a battle of attrition here for the front two. They're really trying to get on each other, put the pressure on. Klaffenbach gaining a little bit more there, coming through the final corner, and again, Krozen trying to respond and trying to break more time. It just doesn't seem to be going the way they want to, especially not. But here comes Halliday swapping the DRS there with Klaffenbach. It's certainly going to be something to watch as we go through. They're just DRSing each other to gain a little bit more speed, gain a little bit more time to the front runner of Krozen ahead. That 2 second gap is now 1.6 and closing.
I think this is the wildcard moment we were talking about. This is Klaffenbach recognizing and respecting Halliday for the rival that he is, an unwitting ally, because as much as they don't want to admit it, they need each other if they're going to reel themselves into the lead. So Halliday and Klaffenbach almost slipstreaming and chaining off of each other, even with the single DRS zone making it not that effective. It could be a bit of a waiting game, but at the same time, it's a ticking time bomb for Krozen. He's going to get reeled in. Those mediums are going to fall off a bit. And what was a very strong starting position could very quickly turn into a logistics and strategy nightmare. If he has to jump onto those hards and the other drivers are going to be outpacing him or running on those prime mediums, well, I don't know. We'll have to see, won't we?
It's all down to strategy here now as the gap starts to close a little bit more. It's almost down to just a second. 1.3 now separating Jean Halliday and Joris Grozen. Still not within DRS striking distance, but Klaffenbach staying very close to the Ferrari, getting past with the DRS, and there it is. It's the DRS strategy that they're using with each other, passing each other lap after lap, slipstreaming each other to break down and get into Joris Grozen's rear view and potentially push on to take the position away. It was just within a second though, but as we come through into sector 1 and through the snake, it's just going back outside of a second. This battle of attrition, push and pull, is constantly going now and has been going for quite a few laps. Lap 8. Will Klaffenbach be able to reel in through Spoon and potentially break that 1 second and finally get the DRS back against Joris Grozen, who's led the first 8 laps without so much as a worry looking over his shoulder? But now he'll certainly will have to look behind him as there is a lurking Kick Sauber coming to chase him down for championship.
I can tell you now that Klaffenbach is within that second gap and looks to be within detection range at this rate by the time we get out to the other side and get through 130R. The curious thing though is Grozen is going to be fighting and doing their best, but I think they're suffering from a bit of thermal degradation. I think those tyres, the mediums particularly coming out into Sector 2, are looking absolutely roasted. You can see already half a second that gap is diminished, and now because he's on those mediums, he's going to be on that different split, that different strategy. He's not going to have that same type of chaining technique that we will see the rest of the field doing, like with Klaffenbach, who's going to be taking his chance. Lap 9, he goes for it.
Gets the move done very easy with the one and only DRS point that you will get. And now this is crucial. Klaffenbach now needs to push on, try and bridge a gap, let Halliday slurk in behind Grozen and then attack. And that is the P3 position that he will need to potentially take Tier 2 Championship. But we are only in the first stint. There are still 18 laps to go of this race. It's still anybody's game. But with that alternate strategy, with Joris Grozen being on the medium tyre, this certainly is good, very insightful for Klaffenbach. Klaffenbach can see where the cliff is going to come, how long the medium tyres are going to last at full push. You saw Grozen go for that push off the line strategy, bridge the 2.5 seconds, but ultimately it was just too much for the medium compound tyre. They burnt away, blistered away, and Klaffenbach is now ahead, leading for the first time in the season finale of Tier 2, Season 18.
Yep, and now look at the rest of the field too, because ST Marquardt and Latour all have gone onto the hards a lap earlier than Grozen have. So he's really going to be in a spot of bother here as we come up with Casio. Is the Kick Sauber going to put up much of a defensive? We see a little bit of wiggle, a little bit of skittishness as we come through those chicaning corners. But all eyes are going to be on Halliday. Halliday's going to be the one to push, close the gap. You've got Donovan also, who's leaning in for the toe. There's going to be some defensive maneuver from Klaffenbach there. They're going to hold firm on the inside. There's a speeding in the pit lane for Schluter. That is going to be our first retirement. And Grozen, try as he might, the defensive move from Klaffenbach meant that he could not get that grip on the outside, and he could not get that move done into turn 2.
Certainly could not. Beautiful defender from Klaffenbach, keeping Grozen behind again, leaving him there, not letting him get the position. He's going to make it hard if he is thinking about boxing this lap. He's not going to make it easy for him. Klaffenbach still maintaining the lead. Halliday lurking behind. This is the chance for Halliday to try and put the pressure on the Alpine driver. Can he get past in any way, shape or form? He needs to close that gap up as we get into the back straight. But first, it's all about Spoon Corner. Who's going to have the grip here? I don't think Grozen's going to have the optimum line. I think he's going to struggle on those medium tyres. Although I am mistaken, he deals with it very, very nicely. Doesn't lose too much time. The mediums are still working for him in this point on the race, which is beautiful. He can just stay there for as long as possible. Hope to stay within the DRS, extend it, and then will benefit on the harder tyre, keeping them a little bit fresher for longer.
Going on a very deep run here on the medium, though. This could put him in a little bit of trouble. He's got that DRS detection, and he's going to make use of it. But eyes on Halliday here as the one who could capitalize and make it work here. The defensive move from Klaffenbach, but it's not going to be enough. The Ferrari makes it 2 for 2, and Halliday is up in the lead as we head into lap 11 now. This is where things start to really get interesting. We have got Halliday in the red, you've got Crozen in the blue, and you have Klaffenbach in the green. It's almost like that 2008 movie I saw that one time. You have a fight at the top. 3 of the cars, 3 of the finest here in the championship, taking it to the very line.
Absolutely, but don't forget pit stop strategies are a thing to come into play later on. Lap 11 now, still 16 laps to go. It's all to play for these 3 drivers. Halliday, you mentioned it earlier, Sappy, he's certainly putting himself within a striking distance of getting himself into a race victory. He's your driver to watch, but here comes Klaffenbach, my driver to watch. He has a little look. Is he going to send it into Spoon? He certainly is. He's sending it side by side. The slight contact with his rival, Crozen. He's almost pushed off the track. He is off the track, should I say, pushed off, but collects himself back up right behind Klaffenbach. That's a bit of a controversial one from Klaffenbach, but he does stay ahead into P2. But now around 130, how we go. Is the Alpine going to respond in any way into the final corner? He's not close enough yet and cannot get him under braking. But he will. He's yet to dive into the pits. Those medium tyres are going serious distance here. We saw JST, Marquardt and Leotard all go in early for the hard compound tyre, but Crozen gets past Klaffenbach once again, takes back his rightful position after what was a controversial dive into Spoon.
I'm going to say this is absolutely mental here from Crozen. They're 11 laps deep on the medium where everyone else has already changed out those yellow walls long ago. He remains committed, he remains firm, and is going to be pushing it with all of his might. Klaffenbach is kind of stuck. You can see the pace that he has on tap. He's trying to get round, but some defensive positioning and some well-timed closure is going to see him well and truly stuck behind that A524. And this is allowing Halliday, in fact, to get away. He's on the cusp of a second. Big lockup from the Kick Sauber as we go through the hairpin now. Drag racing side by side. They're going to be 200R. That's going to be a bit of a yield from Klaffenbach, but it's not going to last that way for long. Donovan is going to be waiting in the wings as well, the P4 Aston Martin, and they are definitely going to be a driver who would want to get their nose in the fight.
Absolutely, you can see Klaffenbach, he's slamming on the door, booting on the door, trying to cave it in, but it just will not open for him. He's trying to get past Crozen any opportunity that he can, and he's going for it now around 130. Yeah, he's trying to make it side by side, fighting for it, giving it everything he's got. It's like it's a fight for survival, and there's only one who can come out on top. It's Klaffenbach giving it everything, but Crozen defended it well and now dives into the pits to get off those yellow walls. But the door has been opened for Linus Donovan, and Donovan will take that move. But here comes Andre Molnar alongside his Kick Sauber teammate, takes it. It's 2 losses for Klaffenbach.
I think Klaffenbach's feeling like he's been played for a fiddle, because Halliday is 1.3 seconds up the road. All that fighting between himself and the Alpine, getting stuck behind him. And you can see the anxiousness of Klaffenbach exhibited in his driving, even when around his Sauber teammate. But Halliday, being so far up the road, meant he was out of DRS and ripe for the taking by Donovan and Molnar. That was a good move on the damage limitation front. And even after all of that, Crozen is only going to come out 1.3 seconds behind JST.
It is indeed. It's not the best stop for him. He will come out behind JST, but he has the fresher hards to his disposal. 4 laps ran already for JST. However, he does get ahead of Joe Marquardt and Keanu Leotard, the other 2 drivers who have also boxed and will not need to box again. Surely those hard compound tyres are going to be sweltering at the end. They've already done 4 laps, but it was Joris Crozen who will benefit and potentially get past those drivers early on. He's not within DRS yet, but it is to come within a couple laps' time.
The big thing, though, is going to be that changeover period when all of these current hard runners on 12 laps go in for their mediums. There's 2 key questions with that. One is when, And 2 is how quickly they can get those mediums up to temp and start to make some decisive moves for position up the field. We're seeing a little bit of closure around the course. We see Linus Donovan now within half a second of Jan Halliday, as Molnar and Klaffenbach are going to be trailing a little bit further behind the Aston Martin. And then the rest of the field is starting to file out in its own way. Everyone, though, for the most part, is keeping within 1 or 2 different trains, with the exception of the medium runners at the start. Everyone except Gottschalk was in within a second of another driver.
Yeah, so you can see the gap start to open, but that's where the pit stop strategy comes into play. They box when they feel like they need to, and then they press on to close down that gap once again. For when the front runners do need to box, the rest of the drivers box, the gap will close up ever more. But there is that huge DRS train, as you say, from P1 all the way down to P12. Jan Halliday was DRS clear, but Linus Donovan closed it in very, very quickly. Not only that, I've kept my eye on it for a little while, but Klaffenbach is trying very, very hard to get past his teammate, but Andre is not conceding. He's doing an Oscar Piastri and not thinking about the championship for his teammate in any way, shape or form. He's defending it like a lion. He's not letting it go. Although Klaffenbach is trying anything he can to get through, it shall not open for him.
Well, no love lost between the 2 Kick Sauber drivers, that's for sure. As much as they share a team outfit when it comes to league racing, when it comes to these top 3 and top 4 drivers, they are not going to be yielding. They are drivers first and foremost, and they know exactly what they are in for. Linus Donovan is going to take the lead of the race in a very smooth move, as Crozen, now on those fresh mediums, no fresher hards I should say, is going to be taking the fastest lap of the race. Is certainly a statement of pace in his pocket to the other drivers, as Klaffenbach remains stuck behind the other Kick Sauber and Molnar. Halliday now in P2 and Linus up in first. Rosen is going to start making some headway soon, as Grob and Gottschalk have headed into the pits. First drivers to make their second stint on medium.
Well, certainly they'll have a bit more grip in the opening laps, but 12 laps to go on the medium tyre. They did see Joris Krozen go 12 laps on those medium compound tyres, but also don't forget, we had some drivers box early off the medium compound tyre. Certainly weren't working for the likes of JST, Jean-Marc Wood and Keanu Leotard, but it did work out beautifully for Joris Krozen, and Ryan Grob, Daniel Gottschalk are all thinking about that strategy. But here goes Klaffenbach round the outside. Can he get the move on his teammate coming? Oh, he was in the inside and still doesn't get it. It was defended off once again from his teammate Andrea Molnar. Andrea is not giving that position up whatsoever. You can say they are teammates and wearing the same colours, but the drivers are going to fight it out for any position they can against each other. They are still rivals and must one-up each other on the track.
Klaffenbach being seriously dropped down the order thanks to that failed move. And now Molnar has got himself about a second or half a second either side to the cars around him. A little bit of needed breathing room as Linus and Jan Halliday now make that position trade once again. Sprogeslu and Tolki now onto the medium tyre and are going to be pushing themselves further up ahead. But look at the mid-pack, look at Krozen. 3 laps on the hards, he's overtaken JST. And now they can maybe do a little bit of DRS tagging of their own. 7 seconds up the field from Finn. They are going to be in their own pocket. And if they can maximize that pocket with some clever strategy, they could come out much on top.
Well, he's just brought the 20-second gap to the front runner, has Joris Krozen. So when they do decide to come in for the pit stops, it will be Krozen that will take net lead of the race. It currently is running net lead, should I say, as he's closing that gap down ever more. So when everybody decides to box, he will be back out leading the race, but we'll have JST lurking right behind him, providing that McLaren driver can stay right within the DRS and ride on Krozen's tail.
I'd say a real unconventional strategy, at least when you look at the context of the rest of the field. He decided in the field of everyone, and oh, that has happened. Something has gone very wrong for Ryan. He's crashed out, he's got terminal damage, and he's in the center of that track. This is on a silver platter for Klaffenbach, Martinez, and Finn. They jumped into the pits in the perfect time as the safety car has made its way out.
I do not believe it. They've just been given a saving grace, though. They're not going to lose out too many positions, but it's Crozen who's going to lose out the most here. But he has gone back into the pits and slaps on some fresh medium compounder tyre, but he's falling down the order all the way down to P14. Made up positions off the pit stop strategy, and he's now falling back down again. The safety car has flipped this race on its head.
I don't know about that call from Crozen, honestly. He had such a strong strategy early on. Barely anywhere on those hards. I think that's a misjudgment. He may get some pace advantage from those mediums, but I think the positional trade-off is just not worth it, especially when Klaffenbach is now P8 on the same level of tyre. The amount of cars that Crozen is going to have to scythe through is not going to be an easy challenge by any stretch of the imagination. I really think he should have stuck on those hards. He should have remained committed to it because he had such an unconventional strategy to that point. He was basically saying, I've done an extended stint on the medium. I still kept pace with you. Now I'm going to be on these prime hards for much longer. So I say, let them come. I think he's made a massive blunder here.
That has absolutely cost him a huge lump of time in terms of the finishing strats of the race. Like you say, he should have stayed on those tyres. He did have a good amount of tyre life still left in him. They were very, very fresh in terms of lap life. We've seen the hard tyre do quite a lot of mileage in some of the earlier races. They certainly look like they had it here today as the rest of the field goes into the pits to box onto the fresh medium compound tyre. Will Klaffenbach get the jump? Although it's under safety car, will he get back through and ahead of him? He's coming down. I think he will.
It's going to be tight.
Klaffenbach's going to lead. Is he going to lead? He's not. He might slot in just between his teammate. He does once again.
Oh, how that is a little bit awkward. He must have thought he got that perfect timing, that saving grace, but in the end he's going to slot right back where he started. Though that does not matter to him, because what matters to him really is the fact that Crozen is now going to be, albeit in P12 now, but still, that is 8 positions adrift of Klaffenbach and a massive mountain to climb here.
P4, as it stands, where Klaffenbach finishes, P4, what is it, 12 points?
P4, that would be 12 points to Crozen's 0. He's currently out of the points positions.
He needs to outscore Crozen.
It's 8 at least.
8, yes.
Oh, 9 because of the countback.
9 points. Wow. It all comes down to these final closing laps when the safety car decides to grace itself by disappearing off our screens and we get back to green flags and racing. But this has flipped everything upside down for what would have been Joris Crozen victory and dominance. It's now looking like Klaffenbach can pull this out of the bag by Ryan Grob collecting himself in the wall and centering his car back on the track. Of course, accidents happen in racing, and especially with the drivers pushing to the absolute limit of the car's potential. Sometimes you push it a little bit too far. Well, there is the call. The safety car will be in at the end of this lap as the drivers now really try to generate that all-precious tyre temperature back into those medium compound tyres. And we shall get, what, 7 laps of racing? 8 laps of racing?
It will be about 8, in fact 9 laps of racing here. But this is where Halliday has control of the pace. I was expecting a wild card for sure, but I was expecting it to be powered by HP and a very bright red car. In the end, it was a safety car coming from one of the Hasses. And in the end of it all, this is going to be Halliday getting a good jump on the field, getting a couple of tenths out on Linus Donovan, and now the race is back on. It's going to be all guns are blazing as Crozen has got a fight to make up. He's going to be able to get a few positions, but will it be enough to close that all-important 9-point gap? If there's a 9-point difference between Klaffenbach and Crozen by the end of this race, Klaffenbach will have that clincher and the championship in tow.
Absolutely. So it's all for Klaffenbach now to press on and get past his teammate get past Linus Donovan and extend the points as best he can, because Joris Krozen is already looking for a move on JST. As we go into the hairpin, he's side by side on the exit. He's got the outside line, which will now switch to the inside line into 200 hard. He gets it done. That's one position gain for Joris Krozen. It's now for Klaffenbach to get past his teammate, which he does. And now it's another points position gained, but do not count out Joris Krozen yet, because he's still trying to gain more positions and prevent Klaffenbach from taking what will be the championship.
Krozen on the cusp of getting back into the points-paying spots. All that stands between him and points is Finn right now, and he's going to be very close to the rear of that RB. But Klaffenbach simultaneously trying to close that gap to Donovan and Halliday. There's going to be a bit of a gain. He's got the fastest lap thus far in the kickstart, but Krozen's going to do one better. Torquay's going to bring it all the way down to a 29.1 as Klaffenbach is pushing with all their might. They had that early gain, and they dumped a lot into that move. Now they need at least a lap or so to recharge before going for that strike once again.
Joris Krozen is back within points, so now needs to gain a couple more positions, needs to keep pressing and get past these cars in this huge monumental train, although he will pick up a point so far. It is not enough to stop Klaffenbach as of yet. We still have 8 laps including this one as we come around into Degner 2 now and get the press back on up into the hairpin.
All eyes on that Alpine and on that kickstart. Burrows is going for a big move through the hairpin. He's just managed to get that car in one piece of the way through. Very deep on the run there, but Klaffenbach has got himself into P2 and is on a thorough charge to the top end of this field. Remember, folks, 9 points is needed for Klaffenbach to take the championship, and so far he's sat in P2, though soon to be P3. Donovan is going to go on the inside of what the TR Casio. Someone's going to take the yield. Someone's got to give. Neither willing to give an inch. Donovan is going to be really putting the pressure down on that Kicksauber car. And in the end, it's going to be a brutal fight all the way through. Donovan refusing to let anything go. Take no for an answer. He's going to be sandwiched almost between the two Kicksaubers. Molnar slotting his way through in this fight. Contact between the two. And in the end, the Kicksaubers into P3 and P2 respectively. Krozen making his way up to P9, getting past Tom Martinez. And it's going to be slowly making his way up, getting point by point, edging himself closer.
Oh, that's not good for Klaffenbach. He's losing points to his teammate. The championship is at stake. You need to get yourself back on the nerve. The attack from Linus Donovan really unsettling Klaffenbach, though. Potentially getting him a lot further under pressure as Krozen makes another point position, but he's still just not
it's a massive
enough.
Dive.
Oh, he's going for it again, a massive dive. He's side by side against the second Mercedes driver. Leroy Brown defends it well, keeps Krozen down into P9. Krozen is really coming for it. He's sending everything out here. It's only 7 laps to go, including this one. It's all to play for these drivers. Klaffenbach needs to get past his teammate. Krozen needs to get past Leroy Brown. There's a monumental fight going on here in the closing laps.
Yep, 2 different fights at 2 different positions. Klaffenbach is sick and tired of Molnar really blocking him at this stage of the race. I know that they are 2 drivers who both have the pace and the wherewithal to take those positions. Molnar is going to be pushing all the way to the crown and is going to be taking that first spot in the race. Is Klaffenbach going to file through and do the same? No, they're not quite close enough. So that is going to be yet another hurdle to overcome, although maybe Halliday might not prove as much of a roadblock as Krozen has now got himself up into 8th. So 15 points versus, I believe, Krozen is currently sat on 3.
Oh, it's getting very, very close now. Very close. These points are slipping away from Klaffenbach. If Krozen gains another 2, maybe 3 positions, I think that will just be enough to stop Klaffenbach as he stands.
Quintino getting a little bit hasty there as well on the inside. Ben Marples is going to be to his right. as they go through 200 all side by side together. All that fighting is just going to put them under some severe pressure. Marple's up into 5th though as we head through Spoon. Little bit of extension, but not enough to flag up the stewards on this occasion. We see Finn though with a big drop. Looks like they've had an incident all the way down to 16th. No severe damage, but I think they maybe just lost the back end of the car.
There's a little bit of a loss there, but we need to try and keep our eyes on what is going on though with Linus Donovan. Can he get the pressure on and put Klaffenbach down anymore? The gap is starting to open up a little bit there. You see it's half a second from Marples. All this fighting is just allowing Crozen to come and close up, but Klaffenbach there trying to look for an open door on his teammate. It was Halliday who got through on Andre Molnar, but Klaffenbach's trying to capitalise on that one. He's not letting it go easy. He does squeeze through, coming through the snake section. Beautifully done. It's more points for Klaffenbach. Joris Crozen's still down into P8. It's getting very spicy here.
That is such a high-risk move. Trying to go for a move through the S-curves? That's asking for trouble, but Klaffenbach just about manages to make it work. Throughout the chaos, he finds his line, he commits to it, and he says to Molnar, I've had enough. This is my position now. I'm not letting you hold me up any longer here. So now Klaffenbach has a straight shot for the lead of the race, but look at Crozen. He's managed to make it into P6. It's a double header for him here, and this is where the fight truly begins. We have about 3.5 laps left to go of pure racing, and now is going to be where the hammers truly fall. Crozen, all he needs is a couple more spots, and he's within that championship winning distance.
Just need just a few more spots, but he's losing one out now. He's battling away with it against the Red Bull, but stays in P6. The Capua having a bit of a moment there, losing out some time, but Klaffenbach takes the lead of the race away from Jan Halliday. Halliday not having the DRS to defend with, could be open to attack from Linus Donovan, but he's just not close enough as of yet. This is beautiful for Klaffenbach in terms of points, but Joris Crozen is still coming, still on the charge. We still have 3 laps of racing to go, in 2.5 laps. Oh no, 3 laps of racing to go. We have JST out. Oh, virtual safety car. Oh no! Oh, there's a huge collision there. Is that damage for Crozen?
That's a problem. That is a serious problem. He's missing an end plate. He's missing an end plate. His car has taken some severe damage there. He got a massive moment on the S-curves. And that is going to be a brutal statement and a brutal wake-up call. Klaffenbach's in the best position he can get. VSC, pristine car, championship rival missing an end plate. This could be curtains. He's in P7. It's going to take nothing short of a miracle for Crozen to get this working.
This has completely fell away from Joris Crozen. This race has been taken completely out of his control, and it's not even from his own doing. There's just been a couple of things. The safety car ruining the strategy, and now the virtual safety car, it just sent them all into a gridlock through the snake sections in Sector 1. Everybody slowing down to try and adhere to that delta, and it was just a gridlock situation, and Joris just got the brunt of it. Ended up going into the rear of the McLaren, losing that end plate, and that could be race done for Joris Crozen. The DRS is enabled. We are back to green flags, and Klaffenbach is 2 seconds clear, completely capitalising on that VSC. He's all to win. He's got it in the bag, surely, as we come around on lap 25, in the 3 laps to go, including this one. He's Klaffenbach's to lose. He just needs to keep himself level-headed, keep the pressure on, do not lose the gap. But as you can see, Joris Crozen can't really do a lot. He's stuck there in a sandwich between the McLaren and the Mercedes. With that damage, it's making it very difficult through the tight, twisty turns of Sector 1.
This is going to be a massive exercise in damage control. You can already see him struggling to keep that car locked in and locked on the road under severe pressure from Tom Martinez there, as Klaffenbach, as you say, 2 seconds up the road. De Capua somehow getting himself up into 3rd at one point, although swiftly being overtaken on the green flag by Linus Donovan, and Molnar waiting in the wings. I'm not really sure fully exactly what happened. I think there was an issue with the VSC and a couple of drivers hitting the brakes to avoid a delta penalty. I think that's what caused some of the damage to some of the cars. At least that's what some of the reports are saying. But Crozen stuck behind Marples, pushing regardless, trying to go around, but the McLaren is having none of it.
He's defending that position with his life, although Joris Crozen certainly suffering with that wing damage. Can't get the optimum rotation that he needs, although with the DRS now, it's going to make it an easy pass, but can he hold it coming around these turns into Sector 1? The Mercedes comes through also, Tom 97 benefiting though with the DRS, whereas Marples was just without it, and Crozen is now coming through these turns, but you can see how much he needs to slow down just to maintain a little bit of control. You see the understeer there, sliding a little bit out there, trying to control it left, right, left. He's just struggling. The wing is just costing him severely.
It's barely able to hold it together in that Alpine, but he's still doing a fine job with the situation he has right now. He's under massive amounts of pressure and trying his best to reel in the likes of Molnar. So all of that considered is a massive achievement for the Alpine nonetheless. But of course there is one driver who's out ahead of the field. We see a couple more cars who are maybe trying their luck at some positions following that last lap chaos. Decapua being one of them, as Crozen has been overtaken by Tom Martinez. They pumped everything into this, and through circumstances and other factors that really hit them and held them back, it might be curtains here. Decapua's going for third, could make it second on the back. Whoa, that is a big desync. I'm not sure what happened there, but either way, Donovan is down into fourth now. Molnar's onto the grass, and all of this chaos means that this driver at the front, Klappenbach, is now 3 seconds adrift.
But here comes John Halliday for P2 once again. Linus Donovan looking to take the position back from Decapua. Decapua stays in P3, and for now, on the final lap, it's Klappenbach who steams ahead with some clean air, no pressure on his rear diffuser, and will do a bit of a victory lap as he comes around the first sector now to what will be the Drivers' Championship here in Tier 2.
The circumstances were chaotic. The race was even more so. But in the end of it all, there have been some drivers who have been massive standouts. There have been some drivers who maybe want to make this season one to forget, but everyone has brought their A game to Tier 2. Everyone has given it their all, pushed 110%, and right now we see those drivers parading themselves home. Unfortunately, we see DNFs and we don't make it home for Brown, JST, Ryan Grob, and Mark Schluter. But as we head through into 130R, there is one who has managed to make it work, who is currently stood a cut above. That is going to be the R8G driver himself, Julian Klappenbach, making his way through the Casio triangle. Take a bow, take a donut on your way through as he comes through and he wins the final round of WOR Tier 2. He takes it in style. And look to that at the line. It's 3 abreast, 4 abreast. Insanity as we see a final shuffle up. But what a final conclusion to the season. A lot to talk about, and I'm sure a lot of tensions to diffuse.
That was a mighty final round with its first share of strategy breaking incidents. You saw the safety car come out and send Crozen packing down the field, forcing him to fight back, but he chose to box again, a strategy that we questioned earlier on. But everybody else on those fresh medium tyres, everybody boxed. If he didn't, it would have been disastrous in the end. So everybody going for that choice, and it was Crozen who then once again got caught out by a virtual safety car, picking up damage and ruined his race there and then. The championship was taken by none other than Klappenbach. It's been a master drive all season long. He's had race victories, leveling that of Crozen with this victory here. It's been 4 apiece. Each driver giving it their all to take the championship, but in the end, there can only be one on that top spot.
There can indeed only be one. Of course, your final order for the final time here in Season 18. It's Klappenbach taking the top chair. Halliday, 2.5 seconds behind. and doing a mighty fine job in and of itself. DeCalpua in third in a surprise move from 18th, no less, with Molnar, Donovan, Crozen, Tom Martinez, Marples, Quintino, and Marquardt making your top 10, followed by Lou, Sprogus, Tilke, Latour, Finn, and Gottschalk, with Leroy Brown, JST, Ryan Grob, and Mark Schluter not making it to the checkered flag, not making it home. And with that, hopefully we get a chance to talk to, of course, our champion, and we get a chance to talk to some of the other racers who have been at the sharp end of the racing. I need a minute to breathe. I think I need to lie down. I don't think I'm ever going to financially recover from this.
Oh, that was a mighty fine final round, to say the least. It certainly had me on the edge of my seat in the final closing laps, especially when that VSC came out. The damage given to Crozen, that was so unfortunate. But again, going towards the line, we saw a three-way battle, a drag race to the line nonetheless. So he certainly finished with a bang, and a champion being crowned on the final race of the season. I was hoping it would go down to the final lap, but in this case it hasn't. It's all been down to a bit of a mix-up in the strategies and the pace being slowed down once again by the VSC, and safety car procedures ruining the strategies earlier on. Again, it's unfortunate for Crozen. He had that in the bag. He went longer on the medium compound tyre. But again, this is racing. Anything can happen within a blink of an eye. The driver's sending it to the absolute limit of their potential, sending the cars to the limit of their ability. And in the end, anything can happen. As you saw on the track, it was Ryan Grob who just got himself a little bit too friendly with one of the barriers.
I do think, though, I stand by the fact that if Crozen had stayed out on that initial short stint of hards when the full safety came, I think he would have been in a much better position. I stand by that, because they were in such a prime spot. Of course, we didn't know that the VSC would come out, that we would have further incidents and some of the chaos that we saw, but at that point, they could have got some serious positional gains, I think. Either way, bygones be bygones. And with that, we do get a chance to talk to the one and only Julian Klafferbach. Let's bring him in. Let's see what he's got to offer. And we will see if he is available to give us a little bit of insight into how he's feeling. It is, of course, Klafferbach in the box. Can you hear us, my friend?
I can hear you, yeah.
Well, welcome.
Hello.
I don't really know how else to meaningfully segue into this, but of course, you made it work. In the final race, you pulled it from the clutches of defeat. You are our champion. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling awesome, not gonna lie. I didn't think that I could win it tonight. I think we had quite a bit of luck. But yeah, sometimes, I don't know how we say it in German, but sometimes the diligent people get the luck. So yeah, I take it.
Was there a particular sort of transition point where you went from maybe I'm not going to win this to actually we have a shot? Was there a specific moment where that shift in thinking happened, or was it more of a sort of just gradual?
To be honest, in the first stint, I kinda lacked on ERS management. I kinda fucked it up a little bit. But yeah, I tried to like improve it during the race, and then I knew like I probably knew that we could get some positions on the medium stint in the second stint, but I don't know how it like could have worked out and everything. So yeah, difficult to say.
And of course, the expectations heading into this round. Now, you say it yourself, maybe they were a bit more tempered heading into the race, but strategy-wise, how much did you have to, of course, change things up? Because we had, the full SC, we had the VSC, we had everything associated with that. In particular, the safety car. You seem to have caught the absolute perfect timing on that.
Yeah, like... Actually, like, our plan was to pit even like 2 laps earlier than that. But I said, why are we not just staying out? We are not losing too much to the train on the hard tires. Like on the train behind. And then it was just pure luck that like I said, if Andre is gonna stay out, we're gonna pit, and we're gonna do the opposite if he's gonna pit. and yeah, and then it was just luck, and we nailed it basically, and then I just tried to manage it.
Very nice. Well, of course, we stand here with you being crowned the championship. Where do we go from here? What's your heart set on as a potential next step?
I mean, the goal for now is, I think I'm gonna drive in Tier 1. I already done some races in as a reserve, and I'm just gonna like go for try to go for top 5s every single race in Tier 1 now, as I think the pace is there. Just need to improve qualifying, and in general maybe practice a little bit more. But then I think I'm just gonna go all in and try to get the most experience possible in the Tier 1 and PSGL F1 races. And yeah, just can't wait to drive with the pros again.
Well, you've certainly made a statement as one of the drivers to watch in these upcoming seasons. And I'm, for one, I'm very much looking forward to it. Anything from you, Corey?
I was going to say congratulations to the Tier 2 champion. You certainly brought on a very interesting fight, and it's been lovely to watch you drive for these past 11 rounds. Although I wasn't here last week, I did watch the race online on the replay and see how things played out. It was a very good Saudi Arabian GP from yourself. I'd love to see drivers win in Jeddah. Jeddah is one of my favourite tracks, to say the least. But again, you took the title. It has been done on the final round when the odds were stacked against you, but you managed to pull it out of the bag and take the championship, and it is beautiful to see, Matt. So,
yeah, thank you, guys.
And there you go. Well, say thank you for joining us in the box, and once again, a massive congratulations to you after taking that championship in the final moments. We're looking forward to seeing what season 19 and beyond holds for you, but for now, take a rest, mate. You've more than earned it, Mr. Champion.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for commentating for the whole season. You've done very well, very well, very well. I've always rewatched the streams and it was awesome.
Appreciate it massively.
Okay, good night, boys. Bye-bye.
Good night. Good night.
Well, there you go. That was Julian. That was our champion. We do have one more face who'd like to make an appearance in the commentary box. However, I believe that we have Decapra waiting. Am I reading that right?
You are indeed. The Capra is sat there in the waiting room waiting for an interview. I think he was P3 out of that one after a P18 start. So certainly got to talk about that and see what he managed to make the most out of this race.
Let's bring him in now. Decapra, can you hear us? Can you hear us? Welcome to the commentary box. Oh, speaking, the mic is not working.
Ooh.
Not sure if we've actually got Decapra here, folks.
I don't think we do. Either that or he's on mute and he doesn't realise.
He's not on mute, but you have got a microphone. Doesn't appear to be working.
Well, he made an appearance, we can say that.
Well, you can say we do have it on record. He did join us in the commentary box, technically. Oh, here we go.
Wait.
We have noise. Oh,
hello?
No?
No.
Welcome.
Oh, man. Yeah, I know, but I want to know if you can hear me or not.
Yes.
We can hear you now.
Okay.
There we go. So, first off, welcome to the commentary box. We'll try that one again. And 2, congratulations on getting a P3. You started in P18 from qualifying. So how'd you do it? How'd you manage to make that kind of gains over the course of the race?
I mean, I see it's been a difficult qualifying. And the race I started with, of course, the target to recover as much as position as I could recover. Japan, it's a track when there is the train. There is the train is not easy to overtake. I started pretty well the race. It was one moment when I was last because I had a little face-to-face with Alessandro Fin when I finished a bit of the track, but it was still okay. I had no damage, and I started, and after that I started to recover, to push as much as I could. And the feeling with the setup, it wasn't really great, but it wasn't enough to stay there to fight. I started to gain positions, and then when I was, I think, P13, P14, I only thought about recovering airs, stay behind, and waiting for an opportunity that is presented at the lap, I think it was 17, if I don't remember badly, when the safety car goes out. And after that, when the race restarted, I managed to recover some position, but then I had a contact with Joris, trying to overtake another driver ahead of me. He closed me the door before the hairpin, and Joris tried the outside, but in that moment I did a little mistake, and I had a contact with him. And then I don't know what's happened, because 3-4 drivers stopped suddenly, and then the virtual went out. In that moment I was P3, I don't know how, to be honest. And when the race restarted, I was there to fight for the podium, but in the last lap the tires went a bit off the pace, and I was struggling to defend the position at the end, and I tried the maximum as I could, but it's a great result, but for some episodes of the race, I think I could be penalized because I went a bit out of the limits, and it was a great race, but some episodes when maybe I exaggerate a bit too much, and maybe it will not, it won't be confirmed as positions, but at least on the track I managed to do a good recover.
Yeah, at least in terms of as we currently stand on track, you did get P3 when it comes across the line, and the steward's office, come what may. We of course will see the steward's inquiries get filled up in due time, and then the final results will be coming out. And a question I have for you is, obviously may have got much higher than you initially started out, because that P18 start to a P3 finish, but what were your expectations heading into this final weekend here? Did you have a particular position in mind, a particular goal in mind, or was it just seeing where the road takes you?
My expectation are be in the condition to fight every time for the victory, to be one of the fastest of the league. It's what I expect from myself to do when I went to a race, when I practice for a race. But in this last year for me has been and is still really difficult for me, because the qualifying pace potentially it will be good, but being really difficult for me to complete a lap. I always find myself to start at the back, and find myself to recover and to change the strategy for the race. That's a really great difficult with which I'm trying to fight to try to improve myself every time, but it's really difficult. This is what I expect, because being in esports in the past, and knowing have the possibility to potentially on the pace I needed to have to fight with the esports guys, but also with really strong drivers like Julian, like Joris, I will expect myself to stay ahead, but yeah, until I will not fix myself, fix the problem I have in the quali, the problem I have to have full confidence with the car. I have to expect every time to be that I could bottle the lap and start the race at the back. Because you know, as you know, also know, if you bottle the lap, but if you did wrong only of 1/10, the difference is really high, because you can start P3 and you can start P11, P12, and yeah, this is what I expect from myself.
Oh, can't ask for much more than that. And that does it for me. Corey, any questions from you?
Oh, pretty much wraps it up there. He does have high expectations of himself and wants to win the races. That's all you can ask for any driver's mentality, seeing yourself on the top spot. Said it before, if you're not first, you are not exactly... if you're not first, you're last. It's the best way to explain it. Every driver goes for the race victory, and it's nice to know that the Capo does also have that mentality. But benefiting, though, from the VSC, getting up into third position, taking that podium away, it's a beautiful result, like you said.
There you go. Thank you very much for joining us, Dihapwa. And will we be seeing you next season?
Maybe I don't know now. I will rest a bit, because anyway, some of this race I of course took myself the time to prepare them, to see if I could be still competitive and able to fight with the best guys, and I will take some rest and will decide what to do for the next season.
We look very much forward to it. But thank you very much for joining us in the commentary box. And whether we see you in season 19 or not, it's been brilliant to watch you race. And we're looking forward to the next one, or the next time we see you.
Thank you very much, guys. See ya. Bye.
And that is where we close things out. So we've had an amazing season, folks. It's been nothing short of brilliance. But in the end of it all, we have our champion and we have our season at its end. So this is where we say goodbye. Goodbye for now. Not goodbye forever. But when we return for season 19 and beyond, things might be a little bit different. But one thing's for sure. There's always going to be amazing racing. There's always going to be drivers competing at the absolute peak of their performance. And there's always going to be a great team behind it. Everyone in the admin team, stewards, the rest of the commentary team, Corey right here, done nothing short of amazing work to create this whole season, make the whole experience possible, and couldn't be thankful enough. And to you, viewing as well. It's been amazing to interact with some of you, to get some of those opinions in. And as we wrap up for tonight, there is no next race, but I'm sure we'll be hearing news about season 19 very soon.
Very excited to hear what is to come of season 19, but as again, it's been a very exciting season 18. It's been a pleasure to be here, and again, hats off to all the admin team, the stewards, the commentators, and yourself, Sappy, for having me for this entire season 18. It's been lovely to watch, lovely to be a part of, and to bring you guys the commentary. So hopefully you shall see me again second time round in season 19.
See, we hope so too. But for now, folks, for the final time, for a little bit, we will say goodbye, and we will see you next time at WOR.